Welcome to Uncharted Entrepreneurship, the show that brings you stories of trailblazing entrepreneurs. Get inside access to the minds of founders, partners, and visionaries. See how they find opportunity in challenges and take bold risks. They think big, act boldly, and make a real difference. Learn how they're shaping the future and making the world a better place. Get inspired to take action, believe in yourself, and ignite your own journey. Make your mark. Sponsored by EO Minnesota. Uncharted Entrepreneurship is a production of Content Basis, LLC. Copyright 2024. Subscribe and download today wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to this episode. Today I have John Willenborg. He is the CEO of Owl Vans. John, go ahead, do an introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and one of your passions in life.
Thanks a lot. Yes, my name is John, founder and CEO at Owl. We build off-road accessories and install various products for adventure vans, and actually have expanded past that a little bit. Yeah, and sorry, what was the second part of my introduction?
Passions? Any passions?
Oh, passions. I have I'm basically living my passions. I have a huge passion for creation, product design, engineering, and also being in the outdoors. So all of my passions come together, although they do say don't go into a job, which is one of your passions, because the majority of my time now is spent in front of a computer. And as CEO, I think Elon Musk said it the other day. He goes, the best description of a CEO is constantly having all of the problems with the business escalated to you. And that's really what being a CEO is, because if it's going right, you're probably not dealing with it. And so it's a constant barrage of what's going wrong and how do we solve it. And those who solve it the best are successful companies, and those that don't solve it don't survive. And so I think, although my passions are outdoor and product creation, you have to have a pain tolerance when you are CEO, because you will be stressed out, you will be frustrated. And so my day-to-day existence in the business is somewhat stressful, but you have to learn how to manage that stress. And you also have to like to perform under those conditions. So chaos is where I live best. Some people love tons of order, and there's no right solution there, but each person's individual.
That's awesome. Have you looked at any frameworks like EOS to help manage some of that different workloads and delegations?
I'm a very old school manual person. So I'm not huge on new software, and we are going to put in an ERP system here. The problem you run into is, and I know when we were chatting briefly before this started, you talked about running marathons. And I think there's a good analogy for running marathons when it comes to business. And that is, you're running and you're feeling good. And you're coming up on like a water station or a feed station, but you feel good. Do you keep running, or do you stop and feel yourself for better performance down the line in the marathon? And I think that's a constant choice that you're making as a business owner, right? So I've got a lot of orders, I've got a lot of products that I want to come out with. There's only so much bandwidth in a day, only so much bandwidth in each individual on the team. Do we stop what we're doing and implement the ERP system because we know that over the next 3 or 4 years it will pay dividends in better inventory management, fewer mistake shipments, et cetera? Or do we focus on new product development to stay out in front of our competitors and keep our manual processes, which are pretty good, or wouldn't be the size we are, and continue to outrun the competition? So that's kind of where we fall. And so when it comes to software or processes and so on, I think right now we're still in that manual phase, but we're reaching a point where we're going to have to take one step back to go two steps forward.
Yeah, that's good. And just for the listeners, the EOS it's just a framework. It's not a software. It's a framework.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a framework.
Shows my ignorance.
No, it's like Google has one, and this one happens to be. I'm an entrepreneurs organization. It seems like a lot of people in businesses in the businesses that I talk to are running EOS. There's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. I would highly recommend people read it. It gets you addicted to it. And there's the main thing is called an L10 meeting. So it's super structured, super on time, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we won't get into that. And that's, so it's interesting, I about new development, because one of our clients is they manufacture meat sticks, jerky, beef sticks, things like that. And they're trying to really own bison jerky, especially they're in Montana, so localize that. And I said, well, one thing that would be good is maybe looking at having a seasonal bison jerky. And they were explaining how long it takes to cure the meat, and it's so labor intensive, and they only have such a big smokehouse, blah, blah, blah. And I definitely can understand that push and pull between developing a new product and then having the time to do it, and then taking away the bandwidth to actually do it.
Yes.
So,
although I must say I'm jealous of their ability. When someone asks them what they do, they said, "I'm in meat sticks." Because there's no more fun answer. It's that's definitely a more fun answer, and it would cause a lot of people like, "Huh?" And that's funny. It's definitely a more entertaining title than making off-road.
I don't know. I mean, I think vans are pretty fun, and I think so. Your businesses must be growing, and I would imagine that your business grew exponentially during the pandemic.
Yes and no. I think what I say about the pandemic is it took years out of people's awareness of the vehicles. So we were actually growing at the same rate pre-COVID as during COVID. And we actually had a fall off initially when COVID started, and then we came back. Now, we would have grown much faster. The problem was we were reliant on vehicles, and nobody could build vehicles. So I think what people kind of forget looking back on the pandemic was the fact that you couldn't get new vehicles because there were no chips. And so Mercedes wasn't able to produce vans. It was a 1 to 2 year wait to get a van. And so our business, if there's no vans, there's no business. And so yes, we performed well in COVID, but it was very much constrained by the availability of Sprinter vans. So had those been plentiful, then I think we would have arguably we would have problems keeping up and scaling that quickly. But I wouldn't say COVID was bad. What COVID did is it already furthered this trend of people shying away from air travel and falling in love again with this beautiful, stunning landscape that we have at our fingertips that's called, America, and being able to get out there and be away from technology, be away from the hustle and bustle of the urban cities that so many people live in, and spend time with your partner, with your family. Those, I think, fundamentally enjoyable to humans, and vans are a vehicle, pardon the pun, that allow you to get out and adventure. So the point is not being in the van. The point is taking the van to some place where you get to do what you want to do, be that biking, hiking, kayaking, etc., or just staring at beautiful sunsets. And that's what I think COVID did for the van world, is it allowed people to get more mobile. And so they tried out this van thing, and since then they have fallen in love with it. And we have customers that have built out 2 or 3 or 4 vans with us. And so COVID shortened the learning gap, but the reality is vans will take over the vast majority of the RV industry within the next few years. It's already happening, and they're just such a better product. And so this was going to and will be a thing regardless of pandemic, regardless of interest rates, regardless of any macroeconomic or macro world trend.
Explain your business model. You're creating accessories for existing vans, and are you creating the ability for somebody to take the Sprinter van from Amazon that's been now retired and turn it into their own camper? Do you go that far?
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's kind of verticals in our business. You have the kind of more hippie, what's called kind of van life, and this is typically someone that's maybe just out of school, has a remote job, the ability to travel, maybe doesn't have the disposable income that someone that's older and more established in their career would have. So these are the people that are buying inexpensive vans and building them out themselves with readily available materials. Then you've got kind of the Amazon taking used vehicles and turning those into camper vans is much more of a European thing than it is here. The majority of what's driving the market here is brand new, what I call turnkey vehicles. So the major RV manufacturers, as well as some very nice high-end bespoke builders, and I guess folks that fall in between that, like a Storyteller Overland. But the big ones, Winnebago, Tiffin, Airstream, Thor, which is part of Tiffin. So all of those companies are building turnkey vans. They have heaters, and I can go into what these vans are like because they're very different from what people have experienced in a camper and so on before, in that they have thermostats just like your house. You set it and forget it. You've got no generator rattling. It's all solar powered with lithium batteries now. So you can run AC all night. You can be very comfortable. They've got all, power efficient LED lighting, showers, bathrooms. It's amazingly convenient. It's just all packed into a very small package. And so these RV manufacturers are building these vans as turnkey vans. They're anywhere from brand new $100,000 to $300,000, which is not an insignificant amount of money. But when you figure that you can finance these like a house, which a lot of people don't realize, it's not like a car loan. So you don't have to do like a 60-month car loan. You can get a mortgage essentially on these vehicles because you can live in them. And so people are buying those vehicles turnkey, and that's really what's driving the market and driving Owl's growth.
Yeah, you mentioned the difference between a van and an RV, or the van and would we call it a larger class RV? I think the difference, and I've been fascinated by the Sprinter size vans for a long time. I think the difference is just mobility or getting around in when you do get into a big city or you do get into that tight space. Mm-hmm. Tell us the background on between the two and why somebody would choose one or the other.
Yeah, so vans are a newer kind of concept I bought my first van 10 years ago, but they've definitely become more mainstream. And it's some of the reasons you just spoke about. There is, I think it's called gas station anxiety. I have been someone who has owned almost every type of recreational vehicle under the sun. And when you get into the bigger vehicles, what happens is you have to be very careful. You make a wrong turn with a giant fifth wheel trailer and you get down a one-way street, you got to back that thing up and you're going to back into traffic. And if you're by yourself, you're in a whole heap of anxiety. You've got situations where gas stations, the overhang's not tall enough. You've also got a massive change in the gender of the people or the gender spread of the folks that are purchasing vehicles and adventure vans. And I think it's for two reasons. We have a much higher female customer ratio for an automotive company than most companies. And it's because they feel comfortable driving it. One of the number one things that we're told by women that have purchased vans is it's drivability and safety. They feel comfortable driving it because it drives basically like a minivan. It does not drive like a giant RV or anything like that. You can fit it in a parking space in a regular parking lot. And then safety. A lot of women really, really want to get out and explore this country, and they want to do it solo or with a friend. And if you're in a rooftop tent, there's just fabric between you and whatever else is out there. But when you're in a van, you've got essentially a steel cage and you can drive away. And so the great thing about a van is you can close it, lock it, and if anything goes sideways, you can drive away. And so what's awesome is there's this huge contingent of women who I think have been on the fence about getting an RV and recreating and going and living this lifestyle. And now, thanks to the security and drivability of the vans, they feel comfortable venturing into this area. And in fact, it's really cool. On a lot of our trail runs, there will be couples where it's a male and a female, and the guy's got this bravado that he knows how to off-road, and so we go on these trail runs, and then the wife takes over at some point and then absolutely falls in love with it and won't give the driver's seat back. And to watch them go, maybe as a kid they've done less off-roading, and so they're maybe a little bit more apprehensive, but they're great at it. And they follow direction. They pay attention without the ego, and so they actually get better faster. A lot of guys are like, I don't know how to do this. And so it's really cool to see that aspect of this community grow so quickly.
You mentioned lithium earlier, lithium batteries, and I know the ID Buzz is coming out this year, and they have a pop. They're advertising they're going to have a camper van version of it. Where do you think the electric van market is going to go in the future?
I think you've got a problem with electric vans. I think that I have an electric vehicle that I drive to and from work, and it's perfect. I've got a longer commute. I save on gas. I plug it in. I never need to go to gas stations. I think it's a perfect use case for an electric vehicle. The issue you run into with vans is the whole point is to get really far off the grid. and you can't charge a vehicle with solar. You can charge batteries, running your lights, running your heater, that kind of thing, because they don't draw that much power. But as far as powering a vehicle, you would need just a massive solar array to charge that thing in any reasonable amount of time. So where you run into issues with an electric vehicle is you get really far off the beaten path, and then you run your heater all night, or you forget to turn something off and you wake up and the batteries are dead, you're hosed. And so I could see a really great, and I think this is what the automotive industry is moving to as a whole. I think hybrids having some sort of ability to have a motor that recharges lithium and working with those in concert, I think that's where we're going to end up. I think EVs will exist, but I think that we're going to end up at a place where we have a lot more battery power, but you also have some sort of small, compact engine that can also recharge those. I think that would be a fantastic van solution. I don't think fully electric is going to be ideal for everyone.
Yeah, I can say that I had the i3, the BMW i3 with the range extender, and it had a little tiny generator in it that sounded like a lawnmower that would click on when you were trying to go too far on your electric. So Owl Vans, I know that we spoke earlier about your kind of this target of getting to 100 million. What are your plans on getting there for sales wise?
Yeah. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, everyone does it differently. For me personally, the way I build a business is, and I've had other businesses in the past that I've sold, I focus on a niche market. So what is an area where I can really communicate and build a brand to a customer that, and thankfully social media has allowed us to do this. So I can go really deep. I think one of the mistakes entrepreneurs make initially when they're trying to build a company is that, and you actually see this on Shark Tank, where they'll come in and they'll say, fishing is a $100 billion business or industry. And if I get just 1%, I'm a success. Well, how do you get that 1%? You've got some, pardon the pun, really big fish in that market who have established brands, established distribution networks, retailers, etc. So getting that 1% is damn near impossible. But if you said, hey, kayak fishing is becoming a thing. So I am going to hyper focus on accessories for kayak fishing. And I bring this up because I know a company that was very successful because they did just that. And so they started out there, which like we did. We started out purely with sprinter vans, adventure vans, when the market was very, very small. And we grew our breadth of products. And then now we're at a point in the company where we've actually kind of dropped the vans from our name. And we're now just Owl. And we are making products and servicing other vehicles in addition to adventure vans. And so I guess what I mean by that is the path for me to create a successful business is get your toe in the door with a niche market only to them, concentrate only on them, and focus on owning that demo with your brand. Once you do that, then you can start to spread your wings a little bit, very modestly, if you will, depending on your cash flow of the business, and you're able to go into those adjacent groups, and then you look up 5 years later and you've got that 1% of the fishing market. Whereas if you just came in and said, I'm going to make everything they make in the fishing market and get 1%, it'll never happen.
Yeah, that's good. I know we talked also a little bit about the slumps that happened, the different seasonal slumps. How do you get your team behind getting past those slumps and working through them? And then I guess on the flip side too, especially in the e-commerce space, there's this huge rush at the Black Friday time that also will suck up teams.
Yeah. This is where I think spreading out your business, and I never really got to answer your question of the 100 million, which we can, but by having multiple revenue sources, it allows you to be much more insulated from things that go up and things that go down. So first and foremost, sales are addictive, but I don't think they're very beneficial. So they are addictive because they're quick cash, but it's not playing the long game. Owls never run a sale. We never will run a sale as far as I'm concerned. And that's for two reasons. One, once you run a sale, that's your price. People are not going to buy that product for the full price anymore, especially with a product that has much more permanence. If you're a pair of socks, great, run a sale, because nobody's going to come back after they bought a set of socks online 6 months later and check what the price is. No one's going to put a set of socks in their, I shouldn't say nobody. Most people won't put a pair of socks in their shopping cart and watch the price change over 3 or 4 months before they pull the trigger on the $9.99 socks. When you're spending 20 to 30 grand on parts, you're going to ask for discounts. You're going to look for sales. You're going to use your Honey browser install to look for discount codes. And by not running sales, we do two things. One, we don't create barriers for customers to wait on their purchase. And getting that purchase in earlier allows us to grow the business faster. B, you're not frustrating customers that just purchased something and then it went on sale and then you have to honor that sale. There's a big van brand in the business that I know ran some discounts, not aftermarket accessories, but actual van builder. And they ran some discounts and now they're stuck continuing to run those discounts because buyers were watching the vans for 6 to 8 months because they're a considered purchase. Then they saw this massive manufacturer rebate. And so they come in for the rebate, but it was for a limited time. And so I'm friends with a lot of these RV dealerships. Some are massive, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And they're like, yeah, we can't sell any XYZ vans because the customers are pissed because there was a discount and now they want the discount and now they feel like they're overpaying. And so as far as the Black Friday stuff, we don't really run any sales. We do shockingly I think people wait to shop until Black Friday, but by not running sales, we don't have people, like our sales before and after Black Friday are still strong. And so A, I don't run sales, and B, as far as the business and slumps and growth, everyone likes to work for a company that's growing. Everyone likes to show up to work when things are getting better every day. Thankfully, Owl has really never had a slump since we started. We started about 5 years ago, and we've grown to be the biggest aftermarket parts manufacturer in the adventure van world. And even this year, we're up sizably. I think we're up 30%, 25 to 30% on last year. Everyone else is down. And the way we're able to do that is because of all the different knobs that we have to turn. People oftentimes will ask, how did you get Owl to the size it is? Or what did you do to become successful with your business? And the answer is, and I give the same answer every time, it's a ton of little knobs that get turned every day. So it's not like I ran one Instagram ad and boom, we were successful. It's tweaking the quality and doing revisions. It's talking to the customer service staff and making sure that they are, communicating with the customers in the right way or following up on orders. It's making sure that your products are shipped faster and in better condition. It's tweaking 100 ads that you have running. So it's turning all these little knobs, and the more knobs you have, the more insulated you are from downturns in the market. So here's a great example. If we only manufactured aftermarket parts and had no installation facilities, which we do, we have 5 installation facilities now, and we're going to have them nationwide and international within the next 12 months. For a long time, there were no vans available at RV dealerships. And so every van that showed up sold, or it was pre-sold 6 months in advance. Well, we've come out of the pandemic. We've come out of the Mercedes had a stop ship for a while with an issue. And now we've arrived at a place where there finally are vehicles available at Mercedes Sprinter dealers and vehicles available at RV dealers. And that's due to increased production by Mercedes and finally getting away from like the chip issues, et cetera. Well, some of these vehicles are sitting longer on dealer lots. And what we found is with our accessories on them, they sell in a matter of weeks. And so you've got vans that have sat at dealerships for 330 plus days. What we do is we say, hey, we'll take the van in, we'll put our parts all over it, we'll bring it back to you. You make additional margin on the parts that we've installed. You make additional money on the financing because now you're financing a higher amount. The customer's happy because the products are in the financing, so they don't have to come out of pocket up front for it. And so having those installation centers allows us to change with the industry so that now when the vans are on the dealer's lot, we're able to sell the products prior to the customer purchasing the vehicle, in addition to parts after. And so a year ago, that was not an option for us. Now, with vans being on the lot longer, we're still able to grow as a company by doing these, pre-purchase builds, etc. So having different ways that you can grow your business allows you to kind of mitigate slumps and areas where seasonality, if you have seasonality, save your brand new product release for the slump in your season, and so that will flatten out your seasonality, and it'll mean that you don't have to lay anyone off seasonally like some businesses do. But vans don't have a massive seasonality. We have a little bit, but it's not massive.
Yeah, I want to pick at one pet peeve that I have with a big brand that sells direct, and they do sales constantly, and they're also in Costco. And so their sale price is never as low as Costco, but if you want that special flavor, let's say, you have to go onto their site. So I signed up for their deal, and then I was brought to their site through a pick 4 thing, and I went through the whole pick 4 thing, put my discount code in, and it didn't apply to that one. So I think you're right, not just the sale part of it, but also making different reasons why people should buy, and then excluding that sale automatically turns people off from buying. And I immediately abandon the cart. But my question is, when you see abandoned carts, do you specifically follow up with real people, or do you depend on your e-commerce platform to kind of reach out and hit people up on abandoned carts?
We're huge fans, and maybe this makes us boomers, but we're huge fans of telephone calls. And you would be amazed how far that goes for a customer. So what we will do with abandoned carts is, and this is all dependent on how busy we are, right? And so again, these are knobs that you can turn. When we're slammed, I couldn't care less about abandoned carts, because we're redlined. We're shipping, we're building as much as we can build. We're picking up the phone as much as we can pick up the phone. We're shipping as much as we can ship. So the nice thing, though, is abandoned carts are there when you get to a season that's slow, or even a day that's slow. Then what happens is the customer service and the sales team can start reaching out to the customers with abandoned carts. We don't offer them deals. We just offer them assistance with the purchase. And so we say, hey, we noticed you had 5 things in your cart. Some of these are pretty complicated products, full suspension systems, etc. And just wanted to ask you if we could answer any questions for you on these. If you got all the things answered on the website, or we can direct you towards some videos that we made that might explain the products better. And just take we are not pushy at all. We play the long game with our customers. People will call with questions. Somebody had questions about powder coating and changing the color of stuff, and it wasn't even stuff they bought from us. But we'll take the time to be like, hey, here's what I would do. I would take it to this powder coater, and I would ask for this process, etc., because we know that builds goodwill down the line. And I don't care if I ever sell that person something, but how will they feel about my brand? Well, if someone else is saying, hey, I'm deciding between Al and XYZ's product, they'd be like, oh, I talked to Al. Those guys are super responsive and really nice. And it's that goodwill. And so we try really hard with customers to spend as much time as they want on the phone. I have people live answer calls. It's not email support. We have email support, but we also have live support. And then what we'll do is we will call those abandoned carts, and you'd be amazed how many abandoned carts turn into sales when you ask questions, because people can be like, a lot of times they're like, thank God you called. I was embarrassed to call and ask these questions because they don't explicitly say it this succinctly, but they're like, I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was talking about, or I thought maybe my question was dumb. But now that I have you on the phone, I wanted to know, like, will this work with blah, blah, blah van? And we'll be like, yeah, or no, actually, good question. It's actually this other SKU that's going to work for your van, et cetera. But the amount of people that abandon carts because they have a question, but they're so busy, they either don't want or have the time to get a hold of you, or they think they're going to be put into some sort of phone tree purgatory where you listen to jazzy hits for 2 hours. So, yeah, that's kind of the approach we take as a
business. I mean, it's such good feedback, and I have this thing called an endless pool where you swim against a current, and I've gone through the same sort of phone tree purgatory where you just have the smallest question, and it's $1,000 item that you're purchasing, and you end up, oh, I'm not going to buy this yet. I better call him, and that phone tree purgatory can really be the maker or breaker to some of those deals. And as your average order value goes up, I can imagine that that's just more important to have that touch. And I think even today, and as we're entering more and more AI, that people want to talk to people more than they want to talk to a robot, especially a chatbot.
Absolutely. And it matters who you have too. Our customer service folks and our customer experience folks are right outside my office door. So I have 4 people right outside my door. I can hear the conversations. I can hear the questions. I can hear how they're answering them. And that allows me to keep a pulse on the business. I didn't farm out my, this is following on your pet peeve. This is a pet peeve of mine. We don't farm out our phone support to somewhere either in this country or out of this country or whatever. And everyone's had this experience where they call a phone system and they pick up and the person goes into this 10-minute long intro. Thank you so much for calling me with a problem. I hope to offer you the best possible service today, blah, blah, blah. And then they tell you their name is Bob. And you're like, look, I know your name isn't Bob. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's like you're starting off that customer service interaction with a falsehood. And so how are you supposed to gain trust with your customers? It's like, if the person's name isn't Bob, let the person say what their real name is. If you're going to have someone that's from another country handle your phone support, then let them be honest in who they are and establish that honesty with the customer. But to have someone that, starts off with a lie with their name, I don't like that kind of support. So I have my support here. They know the industry. I can hear the complaints. And if I ever do reach a point in the business where I have to have phone support somewhere else, well, those phone support people are going to be honest, and they're not going to pretend that if they're in Dallas, I'm not going to have them pretend like they're in Austin, and I'm not going to have them use fake names. It's like, just be honest with your customers. That's day one.
Really good points coming out today. I appreciate that. How do you see the industry going for this next couple of quarters? What do you see in Q3, Q4 for your business?
I think we're entering kind of uncertain macroeconomic times, right? We've got a couple of wars going on. We've still got some high interest rates. I haven't looked at where inflation is. You've got an election happening. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and economies don't like uncertainty. They like certainty. When it comes to our business, the nice thing is, and this is another tidbit for entrepreneurs that I've learned over the years, is we cater to the high end. And we're all about the best product and the best service, and then we're going to charge appropriately for it. And by going for the high end, it has a number of advantages. A lot of people pay cash for their vehicles, for these vans. And so interest rates are less of an effect on a high end. If you're selling Ferraris and interest rates go up, it's not going to affect you like it's going to affect Honda. I don't know what percentage of Hondas get financed, but I bet it's a lot higher than the number of Ferraris that get financed. So catering to the high end means you're more insulated from macroeconomic trends, good, bad, or sideways. So I always like to make fewer of something, make it better, and cater to the higher end market. It's not always possible, but that's kind of where I stand. As far as the rest of the year, I think we've got enough knobs to turn that regardless of what happens in the market as a whole, we're going to continue our growth. Like I said, through the start of the year, we're up 25-ish% on year over year, and I don't plan on stopping that. We're continuing to hone our marketing, continuing to build out our brand, and my goal is to make our competitors very, very uncomfortable over the next 6 weeks.
Last question. I've been asking people about their hiring, and so I summer in Minnesota, we winter in Hawaii. Minnesota right now is 2.8.
Oh, that's a nice
2.8% unemployment here in the Twin Cities, and believe it or not, Hawaii is around 3% unemployment, which means it's very hard to hire people. And I can say specifically, if we go to a restaurant in Hawaii, oftentimes you're waiting with open tables.
Yep.
How do you deal with trying to get people in store to do that, some of the work you need them to do, especially when you want to hire people that you would like to come into the office?
Yeah, so there's a fair amount to unpack there, and that was actually the impetus for the move to Arizona. was employees. We needed not just one or two. I mean, I took a vacation, which is not very often, like 2 weeks ago. And when I got back, we had hired 4 people. And that was a 1 week vacation. So the fact that we're able to hire 4 people in 1 week for different positions, the labor market matters for your ability to scale a business. And one of the complexities, because we started in Northern California, the complexities I had in Northern California, in addition to all the California stuff, which is not exactly, well, I wouldn't say not exactly, it's not business friendly at all. But I loved California. The real reason we moved was labor pool. I couldn't get workers, and that's not because they aren't there, it's because you can't be in any sort of an area of California that you have to have everything in an area where you have those workers, otherwise they're driving 2 hours. So when we were in Northern California, to get someone to pack and ship, they can't afford to live in that area, and so they have to drive in. And if you're driving 2 hours with the price of gas, you're exhausted, you're leaving early, all your money, after taxes, a large majority of your money is going towards your car, your maintenance, and your gas. And so after a while, that person doesn't really care if they work for you anymore. And I'm not knocking them, I get it. If it doesn't pencil, it doesn't pencil. So first and foremost is you have to, when you're small, it doesn't matter, but as you grow, you have to put yourself in an area where you have access to employees, because we love our employees, but we also have a very short rope isn't the right term, but when we realize it's not a fit, you rip the Band-Aid off. If someone is not jiving with your culture after the first couple of weeks, dear God, it is not going to get better. And even if you have a meeting with them and they get better for a week, it's not going to be better long term. So if it's not a fit, even if they're a nice person or a hard worker, if it doesn't jive with the rest of your company or you're having issues with them, rip the Band-Aid off and find someone that jives with your team, because it's not just the work that person does, it affects the entirety of that vertical of your business or that team. So if you have someone that's on their phone all the time and shipping, constantly checking their texts, well, what does that say to the other people that make the same money that that person's making who are working harder? That's disrespectful. And so you have to make sure that disrespectful person is no longer part of your team, because the other people on your team will be sitting there and being like, why am I showing up and working my butt off if Joe Schmo is on his phone for half a shift or half her shift or whoever? And so I think hiring good people affects not just the work output of that person, but the culture. And then I think you also have to realize that people are not a commodity. And each one of these people has things that motivates them in the morning, that makes them happy, that makes them upset. They have lives outside of the business. And so I try really, really hard to make sure that Owl is a business that I would want to work at, and that we do everything we can to make sure that these people enjoy their time here. And a lot of that comes from hiring people that are self-motivated, so that you don't have to be the manager that's constantly on, why didn't you get this work done? Why did you box 10 things instead of 35 like everyone else? That's the kind of thing where Hollywood has this idea of the entrepreneur of going into a boardroom and standing up and being like, you all suck, you need to work harder, I want double the output by noon, and coffees for closers. And that's just not, that's not the way successful businesses actually work. The way successful businesses actually work is someone comes in and you ask how their weekend was, how their family is, and when they say they need to leave early to pick their kid up from school because their kid's sick, you let them. And if that means I have to go out and box stuff, I will. It also means a culture of when the toilets need scrubbing, guess who scrubs them? I do. I own the company, and if the customer bathrooms are not up to shape, I go clean them. And I don't tell someone else to do it, because if I'm unwilling to roll my sleeves up and get dirty in the business, then how can I expect them to roll up their sleeves and do what I ask them? So I think it starts with the ability to have a labor pool where you don't have to put up with people that aren't right for your business. And it ends with creating a culture where people, even if they don't like their job, they don't hate their job. And they come in every day and you motivate them, and you don't just find their faults, but you recognize them when they do a good job. And that's huge. Recognition for good jobs will do so much more for someone's kind of state of mind of work than a raise will. We still give raises, obviously, but if you recognize someone's accomplishments to them and in front of the team,
Yeah,
pays
I'm going to
dividends.
key in on that. Your employees are not commodities because it's so expensive to rehire somebody and train them, especially my previous business with the developer business, and trying to get people on board and trying to get people trained and learning how to do things was so difficult. John, we have a few minutes left.
It is
Yeah,
a
it's a huge
massive
investment, and
investment
I think there's so
to
many.
people do not realize the cost of training. And so if you get someone, you do not want to train someone that's not good, because you're investing a lot of money in them. So if you're going to train them, you want this person to be with you for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, we have a few minutes left. As I close out, I give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything. What would you like to plug today?
I would like to plug this gorgeous country that we have. So people have heard this podcast, if they're listening, obviously, and they can Google OWL and they can see our website and check out what we do. I hope you become a customer, and I hope that you experience the joy that this community has brought to me and everyone that's in it. But beyond that, what I love is being part of a business that allows people to go out and connect with the outdoors. Some of my best experiences over my children's childhood has been going on trips with them in a van where now my preteen daughter doesn't love the fact that you're kind of sequestered, but you're not on your iPads, you're hanging out with your family, you're hiking, you're looking at this gorgeous country that we have. You're not stuck going through TSA where they're, probing every part of you, et cetera. And so just the ability to go on trips and spend time with my family has been amazing. So however you can do that, that's my plug. Go do that, whether it's in the back of your Subaru, in your Jeep, in your van, in a tent. Go get out, experience the lands that we have, and enjoy them with your family, because other countries don't have the expanses of
Yeah, and I
nature.
was just trying to think, what is my favorite national park? But there's so many great ones. Every state has some great national parks, and
they're so different. Like, you go to other countries and they have a topography. They have, California, you can drive from, wetlands to redwood forest to snow-capped mountains to desert in 3 hours. I mean, that's insane. There's no other country in the world that you have that kind of breadth of natural beauty within a few hours of itself. We are so spoiled, and to not use that is a tragedy.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. We'll have to do a follow-up posting for our favorite national parks, and where can you drive in on those with your Sprinter van? Mine is, in Minnesota, we have the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, which is no motors. So that's another unique adventure.
And there's something to that, which I understand no motors for noise, but I think one of the things that people have a little bit backwards is they view vehicles as being less environmentally friendly than like tent camping. But in reality, vans are one of the most ecological ways of camping, because you are oftentimes charging with solar, and so the power you're using is from the sun. You've got enclosed camping toilets that bring all of your unseemly stuff out with you. You've got trash inside your vehicle. You've got water and gray water inside your vehicle. You've only got 4 tires that, 2 of them are going in line. And so when you spread a tent out on the ground and run generators and so on, it's a completely different impact. And you see this now in national parks. It's a huge problem with people leaving behind toilet paper and garbage. Vans are very enclosed. And so it actually is a really ecological way to experience these lands without leaving trash and damage.
Yep, good shameless plugs all around. John, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. John Willenborg, the CEO of OWL. I'll make sure I put all your contact deals into the show notes. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Brent. Thanks for having us.
Uncharted Entrepreneurship is a production of Content Basis, LLC. Copyright 2023. You can find more award-winning content at contentbasis.io. And that wraps up the latest edition of Uncharted Entrepreneurship. Bold tales from entrepreneurial trailblazers. I'm your host, Brent Peterson, signing off after an incredible fireside chat with one of our intrepid trailblazing guests. Their first-hand perspective on conquering the unexplored wilds of business is just a taste of the rare wisdom you'll discover from pioneering entrepreneurs on this show. I also invite you to join me each week for insider commentary on the startup scene and digital marketing landscape on my Talk Commerce podcast. You can find Talk Commerce wherever you download podcasts or go to talk-commerce.com. I'd be grateful if you left a review and rating for Uncharted Entrepreneurship to help more bold founders find their way to game-changing insights that empower ventures to transform communities. This is your host, Brent Peterson, signing off for now. I'll see you around the virtual campfire next episode as we embark on another adventure into the great entrepreneurial unknown.